Melissa and I'm back with another video. Today I want to share with you a recent reads video wrap-up thing where I'm talking about the books that I've been reading so far in May. And yeah, let's start out with the final things that I read for Dewey's. I still haven't gotten the vlog up. I actually have vlogged it, but it wasn't a very good vlog. But I have vlogged something and I don't know if I'm going to post it. But yeah, I have two graphic things that I finished on the second day of Dewey's. The first one being Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. This is obviously the second volume in this series. It's following this boy who's gay who becomes friends with Nick, and Nick, he is a part of the football team. Okay, anyway, he is it looks like he is a transsexual, but he doesn't actually know it at the start of this book. So he is trying to come to terms with his sexuality, and it's just really cute. I love the romance here. It's just everything. I really enjoyed it, and you just fly through them. They are really quick, and yeah, very much enjoyed this one and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So very happy I read it. Another one I finished turned out to be a reread, which I didn't expect. But that is Fruits Basket Volume 11 by Natsuki. Takaya. Apparently I read that last August and added it on Goodreads, marked it as read. So why I picked this up at the library, I have no idea, because usually I check which one I've come to, but I reread it and I gave it the same rating, 4 stars. It was fine. But it was strange. I was reading, I was like, it was only until I had to mark it in as read that I realized I'd actually already read it. I thought it sounded familiar, but I just thought it was a direct sequel to what happened in the previous volume or something like that. And I feel terrible about that, but that's just how it felt like to me. The next thing I finished was A Night Like This by Julia Quinn. This is the second book in the Smythe-Smith quartet. This is following the Smythe-Smith family. In this one we are following Daniel, maybe. I think Daniel Smythe? He is the older brother of the hero from the first book. And we follow this girl called, I've forgotten her name as well, but she was a governess in the house. And so she's definitely ranked very much lower than him. And they both have things that happened in the past that causes trouble for both of them, and also for the relationship further on in the book. Overall, I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a pretty good sequel. I've seen a lot of people not liking this one as much as the first one, and personally I just thought it was fine. It was a good romance. I ended up enjoying it quite a bit, and it was quite a fast read. And I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, so I definitely don't have any problems with this one at all. I'm happy I continue with the series, and yeah. The next thing that I finished was Queen of the Tiles by Hanna Alkaf. This is a standalone YA mystery thriller kind of thing. It follows this girl who is really good at playing Scrabble, and she is taking her best friend dies suddenly as she's playing Scrabble. She's like known as Queen of Tiles, and it looks like it's just a natural cause of death kind of thing, because there's no evidence towards it being a murder, but she definitely gets clues that there might be a murder involved, because suddenly it's as if she's contacting her, like the dead person is contacting her later on, and she decides to go in herself to try and figure out who is responsible for this, and joins the tournament because she's also really good at Scrabble, and she wants to become the best one there is and win it, and things goes from there. I ended up overall enjoying this quite a bit. I thought especially the beginning part and the ending part was really well done. I had a middle part where I wasn't as into it as the other parts, but overall I just enjoyed the mystery, and for a YA mystery I thought it was really good. I think there's definitely sometimes you can get a complete miss with a YA thriller mystery kind of thing, because yeah, it's not everyone who writes them like the stakes aren't high enough or kind of thing. But I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So I definitely want to check out more from the author. I've seen that she's also written both a middle grade fantasy and a YA fantasy. The next one I finished was the first book from my Harlequin medical project that I'm doing right now. And that was The Spanish Consultant by Sarah Morgan. This is a book that follows these two people, Anyway, she is she's an educated doctor, and she's starting in an ER. Anyway, she is a triplet. She is one of the three people we are going to be following in this series, and she comes from a family that has extremely a lot of money. Like, if it hadn't had the medical element in this, I am sure it would have been a Desire. But it does have a medical element to it, so obviously it's a medical romance. But the family has so much money. He's like a big businessman, and he hates the fact that she's taking this job as a doctor. He wants her to just stop working, get married, and be a stay-at-home wife kind of thing, being able to help out her eventual husband to with clients and stuff, whatever is coming by, as his mother has been doing. And her mother is on the same board kind of thing, and they're trying to force her not to continue with the doctor stuff. But that's one place where she wants to have control. She's not able to control everything else in their life because she's a bit scared of her father for reasons we find out over the book. And then we follow our male lead. He is a consultant at this emergency room that she becomes part of as well. Like, he's a leader in this, and they used to have an affair, and something went wrong. He used to work for her father, and then something went wrong, and this is so many years later, and they hadn't talked to each other since, and both of them had a lot of angst with the relationship kind of thing. Overall, I love this one. I really thought that this was a well-built romance. I loved both of the characters. They both have a lot of things to going from them in their personal aspects, and the romance itself was really, really good. And I enjoyed my time at the hospital kind of thing, because there was a lot of descriptions, and very detailed descriptions of an emergency room and people coming in, having to have surgery or emergency care, whatever it is. And if that's not something that you'd like, then definitely this is not a book for you, because there's a lot of descriptions on how it works on an emergency room situation. And as I've come to understand, apparently Sarah Morgan is educated as a nurse in an emergency ER nurse kind of thing. So that was really interesting, and it felt very authentic. I always like, I think I said when I was in the vlog that it felt like I was reading a Grey's Anatomy episode or something like that. But it was just better than that, because I felt like it was a little better. The only thing that I have of negative things is that the resolution with the family towards the end of the book was just done slightly poorly. So that definitely drags it down a little bit. But overall, I just enjoyed it so much. So I don't know. I just wanted to give it a 4 stars because I read it so fast and I was so into it, and I really loved the romance. But that end of it was very weird, and it could have actually dragged it down with 1 more star. But if that hadn't happened, it probably would have gotten a 5 star for me. I've seen a lot of people actually pull the rating down quite a bit because of the ending. So I definitely you need to be aware that there's a bad solution about how it's resolved. It's like there's a 180 thing going on, and it's very strange. But I ended up enjoying it still, and will definitely recommend this book. And I'm looking forward to reading on in the series. I'm definitely very interested in read everything Sarah Morgan has written in the Harlequin line, so very excited. And I also want to try out some of her other books. It was a lot steamier than I thought it was going to be. I don't know why I thought it wasn't going to be, but it was definitely very steamy. So I was very happy to actually get that, but it was not too steamy. It was like a good balance. I think that's why I say if it hadn't been with a medical element, it would have been a Desire novel. I'm pretty sure of that. And the last and final things I've finished this month so far is Crochet Cauldrons by Natsuki Warren. This is the 3rd book in the Vampire Knitting Club series. In this one, we are continuing with a mystery. She has a party thing going on in her apartment, in her store, in her area. And the next day, one of her guests turns up dead. And anyway, it turns into a mystery, obviously with a paranormal twist, because this series obviously have vampires and witches, and she's a witch herself, our main character. I really enjoyed the sort of connections that she got with the other vampires, the other people in her in the group. Like it seems like there's a lot of more development with her relationships with other people in this one, which was very nice to see. I think the mystery itself was a little bit weak, and overall I think it might have been a little bit too short, and that it would have benefited from having a bit more to it overall. I mean, the audio of this one was in the real time was 5.5 hours, which is very little for a regular novel size. I've almost say that this is a novella length. It could be a novella length usually, but I think if it had like 100, I don't know, 50 more pages or something, it would have benefited a lot from that. I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars, but I'm still very interested in reading on with the books. Anyway, those are all the things that I finished over the first bit of May here. Let's talk a little bit about the books I'm currently working on. First up, I started on this over Dewey's, and that was Shades of Milk and Honey by Mary Robinette Kowal. I am 150 pages into it. It's 260 pages long, so I have 110 pages left. Apart from that book, I'm also reading on in the Harlequin medical books, and I'm reading Rescued by the Single Dad Dog by Marianne Lennox. This is the first book in a... No, I think this is a standalone book. This is the only standalone book in the mix. It was a 2020 release, I think, and I'm not sure how I'm liking it at the moment. We'll see how it ends up. I'm 70-something%. I don't think it's going to be a super high rating, but I'm not overly fond, especially of the female lead. I do like the main hero kind of thing, but overall, it's just not my favorite so far, but it's still a decent read, so I'm not hating on it or anything. And an audio that I've been working on for the past 3 weeks is Doomsday book by Connie Willis. I am 450 something pages into it. I have 578 pages, so I have 120 pages left, 130 pages ish. So overall, I'm very much enjoying this so far. I understand why this has so much praise in terms of it has won awards and stuff in Nebula Awards and stuff. This is trigger warnings for pandemic stuff, because this one we're following a time traveling group. They found out how to time travel, and one of our main point of views is traveling back in time. Essentially, they want to travel back to 1320 in order to do some research there. They were talking about how it was very important that she didn't come when the plague happened in England, but for some reason, the Black Death, the plague, the Black Death, but for some reason she ends up going to like England in 1300 something. She doesn't know exactly. She thinks she's there in the right area in the right time, but people start becoming sick. They have shows up with different diseases, and she doesn't know what's going on. But in the present time of this book's present time, we're also following a perspective of what happens in that time, and there's also a pandemic going on in this time, and they don't know where it happened from, and so they're trying to figure out. But it's very weird reading about this pandemic stuff happening and being so real in terms of what we went through in 2020, in terms of quarantines and stuff, and that's all present in here. So that was a really interesting reading experience, and I'm very happy I'm reading it now and not 2 years ago, because it's much easier for me to digest this than it has been for me in the beginning of the pandemic. Also because we don't have any restrictions any longer in Denmark at all, and there's very little cases on a daily basis, and the majority of our test centers have shut down at this point. At least here, it's easier for me to read about these things and not feel too like bad and stuff. So I need to say this because obviously there are some people who won't be able to read this kind of stuff yet. So definitely know that this heavily talks about pandemic stuff and diseases and figuring out. It's very heavily describing people dying of the Black Death in this one as well, because as it turns out, she's not really at the time that they were you were supposed to be. But overall, I'm super enjoying it. It has, the tone reminds me a little bit of the Chronicles of St. Mary. It's not super humorous in that way, but it's the way that it's written in, and the way that it's told. It seems similar with the vibes, and also the fact that they're traveling back in time to collect data. Yeah, but super enjoying this one. If it goes on as it has been doing, I'm not this could definitely end up being another 5 stars, so we'll see how it all turns out in the end. And just saying that I'm really enjoying it. The last and final thing that I'm also working on is an audio of The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, right? This is obviously a very, very popular book. It's the first in a series, I believe, and I have wanted to read this for a long time, but just postponed and postponed and postponed, and now I'm reading it and I'm enjoying it. I'm about close to the halfway point of that book. So those are what I'm doing right now, all of the things that I've been reading through May so far. Let me know in the comments down below how your May has been going for so far. Have you read any of the books that I've been talking about today? What are your plans for the coming weeks? And if you have talked, yeah, and anyway, if you have any good recommendations for me that you've read something recently, let me know in the comments down below as well. And if you like the video, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.